intended, you will become a more and more perfect center through which the creative spirit of life can express itself. And that will be our theme for the whole month. Being the most perfect center through which the divine can express itself through. That means being open and receptive. So let's set the tone by repeating this after me. No, we're not going to do that. So let's set this tone by, yeah, we are. The more I know who and whose I am,
The more I know who and whose I am,
and the more I live the life I'm meant to live,
and the more I live the life I'm meant to
the
live,
more God perfectly expresses itself.
the more God perfectly expresses itself.
Take that in, because it's the truth. So, in a variety of ways, we will explore becoming more and more perfect centers. That's our job here, really our job here on this earth plane at this time, to be as open and receptive as we can to express that divine energy which wants to express through each and every one of us. So let's get started by seeing what happens once you say yes. Because the talk is, once you say yes, then what? Okay? To knowing who and whose you are. To living the life you are meant to live. But first, let's back up and take a look at that word, yes. The spiritual truth is that the universe is forever calling us into a greater understanding of who and whose we truly are. And we know that who we and whose we truly are. We are expressions of that divine energy. And that divine energy loves us unconditionally. And that's all we need to know, really. That we are always loved by a force that's unseen, but is felt. It's felt. Said another way, life at all times is inviting us to come into a greater expression of itself, which means greater joy, greater love, greater peace, flow, greater understanding, and greater connection. Ernest Holmes, founder of religious science, wrote in his Science of Mind book, "We reach out to infinity, and since we cannot encompass infinity, we shall always be expanding and always enlarging our capacity to know and experience." We're here to know and experience this thing called life. Our mission here on earth is to say yes to expanding and enlarging our capacity to know who and whose we are, and to experience our reason for being here. Sometimes we get confused. It's great to know our reason for being here when everything is going so wonderfully well in our lives, but then when wham, this feels like out of nowhere, something takes place, we still have to remain in that space of knowing who and whose we are. And we are, the gratitude, it's the highest vibration that exists. So I'm so glad that was in the reading. That we are grateful just to be here. Just to be here, to be the presence that we are. There was once a young couple on their first date, and at the end of it, they arrived at her front door. And with bravery and courage, the young man decided to try for that very important first kiss. So he places his hand against the door jamb, leans in and whispers, "I really had a great time tonight. May I kiss you goodnight?" Horrified at the prospect of getting caught, because her parents are in the house, she says, "Are you mad? My parents are here." "Oh, come on. Tennessee. Not at this hour. Absolutely not, she said. Please, can you imagine if we got caught? Come on, there's no one around, they're all sleeping. No way, it's too risky. This guy doesn't take no for an answer. Oh, please, please. We had such a great time and I like you a lot. I like you a lot too, she said. And with that, the porch light goes on and the front door flings open and the girl's youngest sister, standing there in her pajamas and her hair a mess, in a sleepy voice says, Dad said, go ahead and say yes and kiss him, or I can kiss him. Or if need be, Dad will come down and kiss him. But tell him for crying out loud to get his hand off the doorbell. God is constantly ringing our doorbell. Right? Are we saying yes? Or are we just ignoring it? So, we are saying yes to evolving, to enlarging our concept of who we are, of what we're doing here, of being a loving presence, a peaceful presence on this earth, when challenges do arise, and they're always arising, and to be really fully present, really fully present. So repeat this after me. I am the perfect center of creative spirit of life.
I am the perfect center of creative spirit of life.
I say yes to who I am.
I say yes to who I am.
I say yes to why I'm here.
I say yes to why I am here.
That's right, a little enthusiasm there, really. 13th century poet Rumi wrote this. You can accomplish 100 other things, but if you do not accomplish the one thing for which you have been sent, it will be as if you have done nothing. We are all here for a purpose, for a reason. It does not have to be some huge thing. Kindness is a huge thing. Being a loving presence is a huge thing. There are many gifts we each hold in our being. We need to express them. And okay, so we could amass in our life great wealth. We could demonstrate great authority and power. But if we miss knowing who and whose we are, and if we miss sharing our unique gift with the world, it will be as if we've done nothing. That's what it would be like. So we need to always be, that's why meditation, I say it again, is so important. To get centered, to know why we are here and what we are sharing. Author Sandy Daly, in her book, Successful Midair, writes, we all have a purpose which is intertwined with our dream, and one cannot exist without the other. If I were to ask you right now, what is your purpose? What is your current dream? What are you divinely guided to take? What action step are you divinely guided to take? It always involves movement. Movement of energy, movement of body sometimes, but it always movement. Remember, the universe is not stagnant, it's energy. Energy is vibration. Energy is always moving. But how would you answer those questions? We often spend more time planning our dinner than planning our lives. But if we don't have a dream/vision, then we will create the life we have always known. It will always be the same, whether we like it or not like it. We repeat the same thing over and over again. Something has to change. Then we will create, once we have that vision, we will create a life that is anchored to our dream, to our purpose, then we will get off track if we don't follow that divine guidance as it flows through and to us. And what action steps can we take? And by saying yes to your purpose, yes to your vision, and yes to the action steps, and if so, there is a parable that describes what just might happen after you say yes. And this is in a book entitled The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. He wrote this. This is really, I think, pretty accurate, pretty profound. Once upon a time, there was a nobody named Ordinary who lived in the land of the familiar. One day, Ordinary received a very big dream, and from the dream giver. He said yes to the dream, which meant that he had to leave the land of the familiar, that he had to leave that land of the familiar to pursue it. Now notice yourself anywhere in this story as it continues. The story goes on as Ordinary gets to the edge of the comfort zone of the land of the familiar, and he sees a wall of fear. We don't like stepping into that unknown where we feel comfortable. Maybe not, it's not the best thing for us, but then that fear hits and that can stop us. So he struggles with his deep fears and finally realizes that he can actually step through the wall of fear. He didn't think he could, but tries, and he does. As he steps through the wall of fear, Ordinary then enters borderland. There he meets the border bullies and has to keep them from determining who he is and what he can accomplish. But he is successful, so he continued on. Next on his journey, Ordinary enters wasteland. This is a time of loneliness, emptiness, and separation, with no apparent guidance from the dream giver. He feels all alone and scared, but he keeps walking. What I say in life, putting one foot in front of the other. He is moving. It can be that slow. One foot in front of the other. By putting one foot in front of the other, he eventually gets out of the wasteland. And then he reaches the Valley of the Giants and finds all these giants, which he must defeat. He feels small and weak. But the dream giver suddenly appears and reminds him that any nobody who can get this far is actually a somebody. And all the truths that he has learned and all the experiences he has had will serve him well. So Ordinary perseveres, and when he defeats the giants of the valley, he accomplishes his big dream. As a story, maybe we find, I can totally relate to that right now. As he tells his story, saying yes to your purpose, that's what he's doing. One foot in front of the other. Yes to your vision, and yes to your action steps. It isn't the end. When you say yes to those, you have to stay with it. You don't let anything throw you off course, because that's the way our egoic mind is. It will throw us off course at the slightest turn. most likely then, might need to face your fears as you leave the zone of comfort. Encounter opposition from those around you. Endure a season of difficulty that tests your faith. Fight the giants that stand between you and the fulfillment of your dream. And then, and only then, will you reach your full potential as you achieve your big dream. And as Genevieve Barron suggests, bringing great joy to God. Because we are God. So when we bring great joy to God, we bring great joy to ourselves. And then guess what? You get to do it all over again. Because this is a continuum of life. It doesn't mean you stop, you continue. But you always follow that which you are divinely called to follow. Face your fears and leave the comfort zone leave the zone of your comfort. And listen to these words of Master Teacher Jesus as discussed in the Science of Mind textbook by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Jesus said, this is Holmes writing, "Fear not, little flock, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." And Ernest says, "Fear is the great enemy of humankind. Fear brings limitation and lack in its wake and destroys the happiness and possibility of to a greater degree of livingness. To those who suffer from it, fear blocks the more complete givingness of spirit to its highest form of manifestation on this planet, humankind. Fear is a belief in limitation, a denial that the divine is the center and source of all good. In the midst of plenty, humanity lives in want because of fear. To overcome fear is the greatest adventure of the mind of humankind. So that's why we say, feel the fear and do it anyway. If it's yours to do, you will know it's yours to do. So you feel that fear and you do it anyway. You walk through that wall of fear. What a powerful statement. To overcome fear is the greatest adventure of the mind of humankind. It's true. And here's a little secret. You wouldn't be having the adventure if you weren't up for it. It wouldn't even appear to you. So say this after me. I am up for the adventure.
I am up for the adventure.
Yes, you are. I don't want to leave you with a story by a poet who fell very ill. He went to the doctor to discover the cause and the cure, but his doctor could find nothing physically wrong with him. The doctor then said to the poet, "Sir, might it be that a poem that needs to be written, but you haven't done it yet?" And the poet replied, "Why, yes, doctor. I believe I do, but I don't think it's good enough to put on paper. So I haven't written it yet." The doctor said, "Go home and write your poem. And then if you still need to see me, come back again." The man did not need to return. He expressed that God-given gift within him. He expressed it, he was healed, and probably the world benefited from it. We have to do the same. We have to express ourselves in ways in which we are intended to express. And Genevieve Beran tells us how we were intended. To grow in understanding as to who we are and to know where we came from. To glow with the purpose of our being, to glow with it, to grow with it and to glow with it. And the flow, that purpose into fulfillment, to allow it to actually take place. Obstacles will always appear. Move through the obstacle, it's not real. Thereby becoming a more and more perfect center through which the creative spirit of life can express itself. So my charge to all of us this morning is to go out and allow God to express through you and have one great time doing it. And so it is.
And so it is.